Welcome back to another video. If you're interested in these kinds of topics, please consider subscribing, hitting that subscribe button, and smashing that like button as it helps against the ever-prevalent and deceiving YouTube algorithm that suppresses individual content for more corporate and mainstream content. As you know, we discuss the topics of religion and spirituality, particularly my faith of Christianity. We discuss TRP concepts and bigger picture red pill type stuff. We discuss finance, and we also discuss matters of self-improvement. I stumbled upon this video today and decided, tomorrow's video will definitely be a reaction and, elaboration or comment. I want to add my own opinion to this video here. And I basically agreed with everything that this person is saying. Her name is Alexandra. She's clearly got a new YouTube channel. She's at 41 subscribers at the time of this video. And she basically posted this. It's about single mothers that intentionally exclude the fathers from the children's life that they have. I found this video on SocialGalactic. SocialGalactic is a private social network. It's very similar to Twitter, but it's private. You cannot just join it for free. You need to be an unauthorized .tv subscriber, which I am. And it is a social network that is owned and operated by Vox Day and his company. And honestly, I have had more meaningful conversations on this tiny pool of a network with minimal people than I have had on Twitter or Gab. Space Bunny, who is the wife of Vox Day, posted this video on SocialGalactic today, so I found it. And I wanted to give Alexandra and Plantation of Creativity a shout out. I think her content is pretty good. I'm going to go through the rest of her videos at some point, but I will certainly put a link to her channel and this video in the description of this video, and check her stuff out. The video, like I said, is directed towards women who have voluntarily chosen to keep the father of their children out of the children's lives. So that does not include fathers who died and left their families behind. That's not what we're talking about, though a lot of that stuff that comes from the consequences of that would be relevant to what she's saying here. It's mostly that a lot of women are still very bitter and very angry about the potential, or I should say the actual relationships they had with the fathers of their children, and they're not able to let go of these deep, angry grudges to the point of not being able to swallow their pride and doing the wrong thing for their child, doing the wrong thing for their little boy or their little girl. Me, I can do this all on my own. I don't need no man. I don't need the baby daddy. We can do this all on our own, not even thinking about how the child is going to be brought up. As Alexandra puts it, a child is a combination of a masculine and a feminine. Regardless of what the child's actual biological sex is, they are the fusing of the two spirits of femininity and masculinity, and they require constant exposure to both sides of the human race as they're getting older. I myself, growing up in the 90s, where divorce was even higher than it is now, and I think we actually have seen a decline in divorce with the decline of marriage, so it's not really sure. It looks to be that people are still around 50% splitting up couples. And so I knew a lot of families that were both, right? I knew kids whose mom absolutely said no to the dad and who didn't grow up with the dad. And I knew kids whose mom said, okay, we're going to live apart and be divorced, but, I still want you in the child's life. And even the relationship I have now, like me and my girlfriend definitely don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. We are unequally yoked, as they say. But she has said, and I have said, and we both agree that if something were to happen to the actual relationship, that we would most definitely still be co-parenting our child, because we both understand, and so does she, particularly she, understands that a father needs to be in their child's life, particularly a boy, but also for a girl. So like I said, I knew different types of people, different types of families where this was a situation. I had friends who only got to see their dads on the weekends, or every other week, kind of alternated back between two different houses, right? Like friend A had dad living in this town 5 miles away and mom living here. And both parents lived near each other. They communicated, they coordinated, and it was a co-parenting situation. It's actually not that bad. I mean, yes, you should, as a child, you want and should have both your parents in the household at all times. But, you know, in the decaying West, which we will be talking about tomorrow, you have what you have and you make do. And I do commend the parents who knew they couldn't stay together, but at least worked it out into a co-parenting type of situation. I have friends today who have gone from parent to co-parent and back to parent. I have at least 2 friends who had a child and couldn't make it work after a year or so and lived apart and then got back together with the child's mother and are still living with them. I've seen it. It's getting to be common. On the other hand, I have friends who grew up without the dad, period. A situation where you only hear the mom side of the story. Oh yeah, so-and-so's dad was such a bad man, so I left him and he's in a different country and there's no way that I'll ever let him see my son or see my daughter, kind of thing. And I mean, it's not good. Like, I have multiple friends who don't know their real dads. Some of them have met them and haven't seen them in 15 years since they were like 9 or 10 years old. Some of them have not seen their dad since they were 2 or 3 and can't remember anything about him. And I have one friend in particular who was like that. His mom basically tells us her story, and, you know, up until just recently, I never even questioned it, but then I started to realize, hey, wait a minute, this is one woman's side of a story here. I bet the dad has his own version of events, and I'd love to hear that one day. That being said, the dad could have attempted to make contact with my friend now that my friend is in his 30s, and I don't believe he ever did. So there is that, right? Like, some dads are pieces of crap, and that just is what it is. But the friend that I'm thinking of is suffering so bad, and I don't think he realizes, and I don't have the heart to tell him, frankly, because he went no contact on me years ago, so I don't really care. But he's in a really bad spot. He's a drug addict, he's not making any money, and he's pissing away all his time doing drugs and drinking alcohol. He's always had major insecurities, and I can't help but think, but that has to do something with the father or lack of father. He had a stepfather, but his stepfather was not super focused on him, more of a provider, but not really a father, if you know what I mean. The stepfather had another child with his mother, and that child is blossoming great. She's a doctor now. And what's up with my friend, you know? Like, where was the attention that my friend needed when he was doing drugs in high school? Why didn't you guys help him? Why didn't you guys get to the bottom of this? Anyway, not going to get too deep on that, but the role of the father in the family relationship with the child is super important. One of the other points that Alexandra made here is that women who are not allowing the father in the life of the child are not actually feminine. They're trying to take on the masculine and the feminine, and they can't really do it. There's just certain things that men are good at and certain things that they're not. Men are really good at conveying strength, putting strength into children and making them strong, building things, whether it's a business or an actual physical construction or an educational platform, etc., etc., etc. Men are problem solvers, builders, and doers. And that's great. And women are nurturers. They are caregivers. Why do you think so many women are nurses and so good at it? Because that's what women are meant to do. They're meant to nurture, restore, heal, help children grow. There is a reason in all the ancient cultures, we talked about rites of passage in a previous video, that children, no matter what the sex, would always spend the first 5 to 6 to 10 years of their life with a woman, especially if you were a boy, even as a boy, you spend your life with your mom until you're 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you go off with the men because you're mature and ready to become a man. But women still safeguard and mature boys at a young age because they're caregivers and babies are still babies. And this is what women are good at. And there's nothing wrong with this, but the world would have you think that everyone should try to be like a man, and that we should totally discredit and disrespect women who like their natural role, and we should disrespect men who say that the natural role of women is to be a caregiver. But that's what they're good at. Women can actually take a sperm and turn it into a baby in their oven for 9 months. Men can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, women should have pride in the fact that they are caregivers and baby growers and baby makers and nurturers. It's a great thing. It's what the West was built on for centuries before this destruction of civilization, which we will talk about tomorrow. But yeah, it's just not feminine when a woman tries to be both the man and the woman and the father and the mother. She can't do it. I did jot this down, but if you want a good example of this, women, ladies, I think most of my viewers are 99% male, but whatever. Here's a good challenge. Go to any major city, go to any neighborhood, residential, go to any village and find me a skyscraper, a commercial building, a house, or any other building that exists, and find out if you can find me one that was built by an all-female construction crew. Good luck. Get back to me when you do. The only time I've ever seen it is when they try to shove it down your throat on HGTV with that couple. I don't know if they're a couple, if they're just two female friends who build houses together. But like they have to like basically show it to you on TV because it doesn't exist. Every major city, from the smallest buildings to the largest, were built by construction crews of men. Sure, maybe there were some women on the crews, but I am telling you there is no way that any of those buildings were built by an all-female crew. This is just what men do. We build things. Alexandra made a good point about boys who grow up with single mothers and that they may not find a strong relationship with another woman, like a romantic partner in the future, because that spot would have already been filled spiritually by their own mothers. The partnership with the mother is what they're super focused on. Which is funny because now that I think about it, that one particular friend I mentioned who's got real drug addiction problems is definitely a mama's boy. There's no question about it. And I added to that. I even commented that I told Alexandra that prison is generally the pipeline that happens in America. I don't think I need to go into the demographics of who that affects more, but if you're in America, you probably have a pretty good idea of a particular group of people who have a very high, I think it's 75% or more single motherhood household rate, and it's a direct pipeline into gangs and prison by the time these kids are not even old enough to be legal adults. So it is super important for the dads to be there to kind of act as a buoy and a control mechanism and show kids how to channel their masculinity into positive and legal ways, not to commit crime and be heathens and running around stealing and doing tons of bad crimes, like stealing bikes with just the beginning, right? Bike stealers, ha ha ha. She also made a comment, which I've always known, about how the public school system, at least in the West, is dominated by women. So if you've got a boy who is only taught by, and a girl too, if a child is from a single motherhood household, so they're only getting their mother, and then when they go to school, they're only getting other women. At what point in these people's lives, these children's lives, are they getting any kind of masculine teacher, parent, guardian, upbringing, exposure at all? Never. And it is incredibly destructive. That's how it is here in the States. You go to a public school and maybe 1 out of 20 of your teachers will be a man. It's not good. I think with this whole lockdown thing, there's going to be a major reckoning on public schools, and it looks like half the country now is homeschooling, and a lot of them probably will not go back. If I play my cards right and I get enough passive income rolling in the next few years, I just may have it so that I don't have to send my kid to a public school and I can be his homeschool teacher. Nothing would make me happier than to be wealthy enough to not have to work and focus on homeschooling other kids, including my own children, to teach them a proper education and not this corrupted, socialist, communist, atheist upbringing that they give kids today. It's terrible. That's my thoughts on this video. I got a lot of thoughts going, and I had to even write my own talking points because I love this video so much and I wanted to give it a proper response. Alexandra, thanks so much for doing the video. And guys, shout out to her and her Plantation of Creativity channel. I put a link in the description for the video, and you can subscribe to her channel from there. Have a good day, everyone. Hey, thank you so much for listening or watching the video today. I want to ask you, what kind of things do you want to hear about? You know what we really focus on in this channel? It's about men's education, right? The manly arts, finance, religion, and health and fitness. So if you got any questions around these topics or things that you think might be relatable or that I could bring any fact or opinion on, by all means drop a comment below, and feel free to email me at rightofpassage85@gmail.com. Thanks so much. Take care.